Where have you been? We got games to speedrun. Namely, this classic. But this isn't going to be just any Mario 64 speedrun. This is going to be the world's smallest Mario 64 speedrun.
This is the Funkey S, the world's smallest foldable handheld gaming device. Say that 5 times fast. The Funkey S is the answer to the age-old question, what if the Game Boy Advance SP was made for ants? A device so poop your pants delicious you can swallow it in a single bite like the lie they told us were 2-bite brownies. Seriously, if you take 2 bites to swallow a 2-bite brownie, you're a sucker. You probably eat mac and cheese with the inferior eating utensil as well. And while shoveling spoonfuls of mac and cheese in your mouth is all well and good, it's still not as great as going all MacGyver, constructing an elaborate invention, blending all your mac and cheese, and drinking it out of a hat. Actually, you know what? Just inject it. Just inject the mac and cheese straight into my bloodstream. Skip the middleman. What were we talking about? Funkey S, right.
Although this device is about as powerful as that arcade machine I built back there. At a fraction of the size, and maybe less than half the cost.
Despite the Funkey S's diminutive nature, it's deceptively powerful and can play just about everything up to and including PlayStation games. I recently reviewed Minish Cap on this thing in a challenge review. I also said in that review that I'd speedrun Mario 64 on the Funkey S, which I can now say was a huge mistake. See, I've never actually done a speedrun of Mario 64 before, but I thought, how hard could it really be? I've already done all 120 stars in the game. The Funkey S has a 410 mAh battery, giving it a battery life of approximately 1 to 2 hours, maybe more, depending on what you're playing. With something like Mario 64, it's probably closer to the hour mark, so I just have to beat the game before the battery dies. This thing isn't actually capable of playing Nintendo 64 games, but thanks to the decompilation project, we actually have a working port of Mario 64 for the Funkey S. How does it control? Terribly. You have a D-pad to control movement, which feels like an insult for a game that pioneered 3D movement in games. I know that the DS remake has the same problems, but at least they have some workarounds there. Also, it's possible to hit every direction at once on the Funkey S, which takes you nowhere. Then you have A, B, X, and Y. A and B function as those buttons normally should, but X and Y have no purpose whatsoever. And there's no excuse for this because they can totally control the camera. Instead, the only camera control is the R button, which swaps camera control from Lackatoo to Mario and vice versa.
Hi, it's me, the editor. I want to show you something real quick. The Funkey S, right? Just take a look at this. The button you see right beside the start button is the function button. When pressed and held, it gives you access to different functions. Volume, brightness, a bunch of stuff. Including, in this game, camera controls. So it turns out I had them all along. And I just had no idea. So I complain a lot about these camera controls, or lack thereof, in this video. And I'm not going to change any of that. So, every time I do complain about them, feel free to call me an idiot. I mean, they're not exactly the most intuitive camera controls, but they do exist. And I could have easily used them at literally any point. Although there is an argument to be made that I made the run more challenging in choosing not to use them, or not knowing I could use them. I'm an idiot.
In light of this recent idiocy, I've decided to come up with a new invention. I call it the idiot counter. Every time I say or do anything remotely idiotic, the counter will tick up. Just like so. This way I don't have to rewrite or re-record anything, and we'll all know how much of an idiot I am, so nobody has to leave a comment about it. Yeah, that's fair. Huh? Oh, the idiot counter seems to be on the fritz. What? I'm not even doing... Oh, you did not... That's it, you're done. Okay, so I broke the counter, but it doesn't actually need to count. It just needs to beep. So that works. And the L button is your Z button equivalent, letting you crouch or ground pound. The problem with both the L and R buttons is that they're so stiff and they need extra force to push. If you're not gripping the device tightly enough, you might flick the Funkey S right out of your hands and into the deep dark void when trying to pull off a long jump. Or, in my case, the most common problem was accidentally ground pounding because I couldn't push L fast enough and ended up jumping first. And then of course we have this incredibly tiny screen to stare at. It's definitely not helping.
Especially not with how the game runs on the Funkey S. See, they had to make some compromises here and there. So take, for example, the sand textures in Shifting Sandland. And anytime you stare into some sort of void, like take the slide level, for example, the textures in the void just kind of fill in with random images throughout the game, and it's super hella confusing.
My limited technical knowledge tells me this might have something to do with the graphics buffer not being cleared, but the point is, there had to be sacrifices made to get the game running on the Funkey S. As you can clearly see, a speedrun on this thing is gonna be a complete nightmare. But what kind of speedrun should I do? Mario 64 has a few different categories for speedruns, usually based on the amount of stars you collect before beating the game. There's 120 star, 70 star, 16 star, 1 star, and 0 star.
120 and 70 star
don't involve any major skips, just playing the game as fast as possible to beat it. I've noticed that without certain camera controls, there are some stars that will be forever out of reach, so neither of those seem ideal, plus they take a little longer. 1 and 0 star runs involve some fairly precise glitches to skip past most of the levels and skip straight to Bowser fights. This D-pad wasn't exactly made for that kind of precision. I get maybe 8 different directions out of this thing, so that seemed out of the question. The obvious answer was of course the 16 star run, probably the most popular category to speedrun anyways. Some of the world records here were under 15 minutes, and since I had a battery time limit anyways, this really was the perfect answer. So how did the run go? Well, it took me a bit to get started. My first run was interrupted by a phone call, not even a minute in. The second run had me dying to the chain chomp. Just life in general made me have to stop the third run early and attend to those matters. The fourth run was fairly promising, and some stars I grabbed were clean, while others could definitely be improved. The biggest problem was Shifting Sandland, and no, I'm not talking about these crappy sand textures here. Getting the star atop the pyramid was a nightmare for some reason. I tried playing it safe by using the shell, and then I bonked against the ledge and ultimately fell into the quicksand. So I tried again, and this time I somehow magooed my way into the pyramid. I couldn't get a certain star in Hazy Maze Cave and had to get it back up in Lethal Lava Land, and then I couldn't get MIPS clipped for a while, and ultimately my camera shut itself off during the second Bowser level. Probably for the best. And on the fifth run, we made the magic happen. The timer starts when the game starts, before you've even selected a file or anything for some reason. So selecting the file as fast as possible saves some small time, and you can do this by pushing start, then A, or just mashing them, I guess, like I did. At the very beginning of the run, there's a trick called Lackatoo skip, which skips the cutscene introducing the character. To perform it, you just need a long jump along the edge of the bridge railing here. It's not a difficult trick by any means, but if you screw it up really badly, I guess you might fall into the water, and at that point, you would just reset. I actually managed to get the skip on this run, so things were starting to look up for me. Long jumps and dives are pretty optimal for movement, but it's really hard to pull those off, especially with the stiff L button. Like I said, I oftentimes just ground pounded by accident, and it's hard to get the right angles you want for dives if you can only input 8 directions. Oftentimes you'll see me just run from one place to the next since, though it isn't optimal, it is practical. We then head into Bob-omb Battlefield, and the next trick runners like to pull off is Bomb Clip. A quick hop, skip, toss, and catch that pushes you backwards with one final toss sending you through the gate. And it is possible to do Bomb Clip on the Funkey S, but I didn't quite nail it in this run. After that, we're done with Bob-omb Battlefield and can head over to Womp's Fortress for some quick easy stars. I do make a quick lazy attempt for Cannonless, a trick that allows you to obtain the star hidden behind this piece of wall without having to blast it apart. There's a pretty consistent setup that runners use for this, but it unfortunately requires rotating the camera, which we can't exactly do, despite having 2 perfectly functioning face buttons that aren't mapped to anything else. I just try to brute force it. It doesn't work, so I head around the corner and wall kick up this ledge to grab a different star. We're in Womp's Fortress to grab everything but the red coin star and 100 coin star, so I jump back in to see King Womp himself. I got pretty lucky and nailed this triple jump wall kick dive to get onto this platform so I could skip up to the top. And everyone knows by now that you can ground pound a face through King Womp as he tries to slam you. Why? I don't exactly know, but I'm not complaining. For the next star, we do the same triple jump wall kick dive, triple jump wall kick dive, triple jump wall kick dive, triple jump wall kick, you gotta be kidding me. And first try. Anyways, we make our way up the tower carefully because I don't trust myself to pull off any cool tricks here, and grab the star. For the next star, there is a neat little trick called Owlless, which allows us to get the star in this cage without using the owl. The problem is that without optimal movement, it barely saves any time anyways, So, no, I didn't go for Owless. It would have taken me much longer anyways. We hop back in one last time and use the cannon to grab the last star because, again, I just couldn't nail cannonless. We now leave and head over to Cool Mountain for a quick couple of stars. The first is bringing baby penguin to mama. I opted to play it kinda safe instead of smoothly sliding into mama's DMs like runners do. But man, the way they play it looks so damn cool. Then we just need to drop down to the wall kick area, which is right below us at the very start, so it's just a quick jump away. And I fall through a gap like an idiot, so take two, I guess. Once we're down here, we just jump up onto the top, grab the star, and we can finally take on Bowser. Except for some reason, I completely forget what I'm doing and I hop back into Bob-omb Battlefield. Yeah, that one's deserved. I play it very safe with my movement on the Bowser level, since it's pretty easy to fall off, and my fat thumb keeps hitting directions on the D-pad I don't mean to hit. I do eventually make it to the top, where all that stands in the way is Bowser himself. Everyone knows this part, right? Grab Bowser by the tail, rotate the stick to swing him around, and toss him into a conveniently placed bomb. The problem is that there isn't a stick to rotate here, just a D-pad made for Smurfs. Even the DS version lets you use the touchscreen to spin Bowser around. But honestly, it wasn't that bad. The fight was over pretty quick, and I was now on my way towards the basement. Down here, we hop in a shifting sandland to grab a star from Klepto. Speedrunners like the long jump from the pillar onto a Shy Guy to then hit Klepto midair, and it looks super slick. I actually landed the jump in practice, but I couldn't quite nail it in the run. The timing and angle are just kinda hard to get down on this device. Instead, I go grab a shell, and then I take the star at the top of the pyramid, making sure not to completely screw this one up this time. I try the Shy Guy jump again, but completely fail, and I'm not sure if it was my timing with pressing the crouch button, or if the press never actually registered, but Klepto wasn't even lined up anyways. For some reason, I then screw around trying to catch up to the stupid bird and get swept up by a tornado, but eventually I give him a good kick and grab the star. Our next stop is Lethal Lava Land for what's supposed to be the fastest star of the run, if you don't overcook your buns, that is. After grabbing the 8 red coin star, I decide to go back into Lethal Lava Land for another quick star. Instead of grabbing an extra star in Hazy Maze Cave, I just bully the bully to take this twinkling star home with me and head off on my merry way. Now we can head over towards Hazy Maze Cave, but before stepping in, we have a chat with this toad here who is kind enough to hand over his life savings. There's a couple of stars we want to grab, but notice how the ceiling looks a little off. There's a star up there somewhere we can trick jump to, but I didn't really practice the jump enough, and it's hard to really see anything up there. So that's why I grabbed another star in Lethal Lava Land. Anyways, 2 quick stars in the cave. The first is just past these boulders. No fancy tricks, you just gotta optimize your movement. Which I didn't really do, I just wanted to make it there. Now we hop back in and grab a second star, and I wanted to see what the bottom of this pit looked like. The second star does have a neat trick actually. You just go over to this elevator, send it down, bonk off the wall to avoid fall damage, then push against the wall under the elevator while changing your angle towards the right to pop right through the fabric of reality and grab a star. At 15 stars, it's now time to get a little skippy with things. The microprocessor without interlocked pipeline stages, or MIPS, I guess, now spawns in the basement. And we're gonna put him to work for us, if we can catch the stupid rabbit in the first place. Once we do, he tries to bargain for his life with a star. I mean, this is a 16-star speedrun, right? And we do only have 15 stars. But MIPS has a greater purpose. The MIPS clip. You see, if Mario offers MIPS' soul to the outer gods, Mario gains the ability to rewrite a fraction of reality to his own will. To do this, we simply bring MIPS to this door and align ourselves along the right side till its shadow disappears. This means that the outer gods have accepted the deal, and letting go of MIPS puts us inside the door. If Mario crouches and turns around, we can trick the gods by grabbing MIPS again and pop out on the other side. And this allows us to pull the same trick on a different door. Tricking the outer gods lets us skip collecting another 15 stars, since this star door normally requires 30, and we only have 15. We do have to jump into Dire Docks first, since it blocks the way to the Bowser level. And I play it pretty safe and take the slow way up to the submarine here to get the star. This puts us at all 16 stars required to beat the game. Now we just have to finish it. To get the key to go upstairs, we'll need to beat the second Bowser level. So I jump in there, and I'm kinda worried since I only have 1 life, but I do get an extra one from this pole over here. There are some pretty cool tricks runners like to use to get through all the Bowser stages, but again, I don't really have much control over the camera, or which direction Mario's running in, since my fat thumb keeps pressing all the directions on the D-pad. So I focus on just making it up and to the end. Bowser himself actually proved pretty annoying since he kept teleporting away. I actually forgot he had this move since I usually beat him before he ever has a chance to do this move. When I did finally grab him, I couldn't even see any bombs, so I just kinda had to guess. And thankfully it worked out, so Bowser 2 was defeated. We're technically stuck in the basement unless we pop back into a stage and select exit course. This puts us in the front entrance and is faster anyways. Key in hand, we can now go upstairs using a remnant of our stolen Outer God power to skip some steps. But we're not done breaking reality yet. Another star door blocks the way, but we can skip by it using an ancient technique that the pioneers used to travel great distances before they discovered rocks. See, the pioneers realized that the Outer Gods put a cap on how fast people could move by going forward, but they forgot to limit the speed that people could move when traveling backwards. The pioneers then found a way to chain BLJs, or backwards long jumps, to travel much faster than anyone was ever supposed to. We can employ the same technique by long jumping on these stairs, changing our angle to move backwards, and continuing to mash jump. If done correctly, we phase through the door and can make our way through the final star door. The BLJ technique is so powerful it can even break through the curse of the infinite stairs, which normally would require the power of 70 stars. Now, it did take me a while to get this. Readjusting the camera alone was a complete nightmare, and you can see how much I'm shaking the device while just trying to mash the jump button. Sometimes it felt like I shook the device so much that my finger slipped off of the crouch button, and then I had to worry about keeping the screen in frame the whole time. Honestly, it just kind of sucked. Eventually I did make it through, and after you get through the first, the second BLJ is much easier. After taking a quick break, of course. It was now time for the final Bowser level. Again, I didn't use any fancy tricks to get to the end, I just wanted to make it there. I made it to Bowser at exactly the 39-minute mark. I know, not exactly on pace for a world record or anything, and I lost a lot of time trying to BLJ, but I wanted to finish the run. But this Bowser fight was a complete nightmare. I've never had a Bowser fight this bad before. I either kept missing a throw or died to the fire or some other stupid crap. If it weren't for this one-up just outside of the pipe, I'd have game overed and just called the run. But I had come too far, and my fingers were getting blisters from mashing all the tiny buttons. And my wrists were sore from holding the Funkey S out in front of the camera. And it's hard to see anything when the camera zooms out, and I was playing on a USB steering wheel. Look, I have excuses for days here, but honestly, I just suck at timing Bowser throws. After a very painful and grueling duel, I did manage to defeat Bowser, and time ends as soon as you grab this last star. I ended with a 55-43-22, under an hour, and before the Funkey S battery died on me. Actually, it had a surprising amount of battery left. Could have played for another half hour or more maybe, though it was getting just a little toasty. Or maybe my hands were just sweaty. If I were to submit this speedrun, this would place me in 1536th place, which isn't dead last, so I'll take it. Actually, I've been pushed back to 1547, so that's something, I guess. Except all these players were playing on an actual Nintendo 64. There's different leaderboards for Virtual Console or emulator, even for the PC port. But this was a special port for the Funkey S, which technically should get its own leaderboard, right? And as the only one with a speedrun, as far as I'm aware, this should be a world record, right? Yeah, I'm fine with that. Totally deserved. Technically also a personal best since it's my first run. So how about we go enjoy that ending cutscene now? Does the whole thing look like this? I guess so. Oh well. What can you do? If you'd like to check out the Funkey S, I'll leave a link in the description to the website, where you can read all about it and maybe purchase one if you want. I'd actually recommend this thing to a whole lot more people if it weren't for the sole gimmick of how damn tiny this thing is. It's fun to play and works really great, but my fingers now hurt, and I don't want to look at this thing anymore. The decision is yours though. And that's really all it takes for the world's smallest Mario 64 speedrun. A world record, and a personal best. And of course, as usual, I appreciate you and everything you do. Ciao.